Well, hello, Rick.
Hello, long time no see. Oh my
Long
goodness.
time to see you in the little rectangle next to me.
I like my background hasn't changed too much, but your background certainly has.
Oh, a lot has changed. It's not just the background.
Yeah.
Welcome, everyone, to an honest look. We are back.
Yes. It seems like this is the time of the year that we have this transitioning piece happening all
Oh,
the time,
yeah.
right? Because
Big transitions.
because it was last year that we actually switched over to the honest look from the Wednesday Wellness Show.
It is.
Yeah. But
It's,
we're keeping the honest look.
we are keeping an honest look. We are changing and shifting. That's what we do. We just grow with the audience. We grow together. We just follow the flow of our lives too, right? Which is very much why we took this break. It was driven by the need to really pause for me.
Yeah.
But I was in the middle of, can we say shit hit the fan?
You were
So
you
I
were right
started.
in the middle of it, flying right back at you.
Right, right. I'm still a little bit in the middle of it. I had a lot going on and I just needed a hard pause, and I think that's healthy. It's important to recognize that, right? When we need to take a break and just shift our attention to where our lives are
Yeah.
pointing us to, in that moment.
And that I think was the biggest takeaway lesson was rather than trying to force, work harder, do more, um, the signals weren't there. And
Right,
this is where, we were having a bit of a discussion about understanding and knowing you better. It's sort of like, we know that that's not going to work. Like, and we want to do good stuff. We want to present things that are relevant, and
right,
just to do something because it was all part of a routine, and what would people think if we didn't, and all, it's sort of like we had to put all that to a side, right? And we said,
right,
you know what, actually, maybe the universe is telling us that it is a break time, that we need to
right,
settle the snow globes, all our snow globes,
right.
yeah, and see what's important, right?
Exactly. And just maybe plan things a little differently. Gave us also the distance from the show to just
Yeah.
think about where do we want to go with this? Do we want to change some things? There wasn't really anything that didn't work about it. It was just stuff happening in life, right?
And I want to acknowledge those that reached out to us and asked, "Where are you? We miss you." And and
Yeah,
and some of the key messages about, they got, the value they got listening. So yeah, that was really motivating, to sort of say, okay, let's let's put a stake in the sand, so to speak, and regroup. We're kind of settled down now, sort of.
sort of. I mean, more settled down than before.
Yeah.
For sure. Things are still a little bit up in the air, but yeah, I agree with you. I mean, just last night, I think it was on LinkedIn, I saw a couple of comments because I haven't been, everyone, I haven't been on social media at all. No LinkedIn, no Instagram, no Facebook. Think of it, I haven't been there. And it was very like done on purpose.
Yeah.
I really needed to just get all my energy and use it to face the whatever was showing up in my life, right?
Yeah.
Which is significant, is significant.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very significant. And so when I saw those comments last night, I was like, yeah, there's another nudge, right? There comes a moment where I think that the snow globe is settled enough to where now you can actually pay attention to the signs that come your way. That dialogue, I call it the dialogue with the universe, right?
Yeah.
The universe is pointing you in a certain direction, dropping things in your life. But if you're too busy in that snow globe, you just don't have the ability in that moment to even notice it, right?
100%. And that's the key piece is, you know, all these things are happening and you're caught up in in sort of the chaos of the circumstances,
Right.
and you're missing the answers, and the answers are in the slowing down, which we did. And and it was so refreshing. And the other key message that I got from this little break is there are no rules, right? It's like, it's like, oh, we're taking too long, all these extra little thinking that goes into it, right? And it's like, no, you take as long as you take. And this is what's just happened. And it's serendipitous to that it seems like it's the annual or anniversary of the honest look, kind of a thing. So, and we're regrouping. We're taking an honest look at a lot of new things.
And
Because a lot of new
what
things.
just went down too. Like, I want to go a little bit deeper into this. I know we're just coming on right now to just talk about what happened in general and where we're going to go, right? But we can just go a little bit deeper, and there was so much, like any moment in life where things go down and you get into the rabbit hole, you get in the thick of it. When you come out of it or start coming out of it and you look back, there was so much learning that has occurred, so much growth.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes when that growth is like intense and massive, you're going to need all your energy towards that growth. And that's very much what I realized. Like, I need all my energy here to face this moment.
Yeah.
And that is the healthy thing to do, right? To leave all the shoulds and coulds and the guilt and I need to and what ifs behind, and just really sit with that moment. That was a crap moment, right? No one likes to be in it.
No.
Just truly admit, this is a really difficult moment right now, and it needs my entire attention. And to keep pushing in both directions is not allowing me to push things significantly enough.
There's no bandwidth.
There's no bandwidth. I had no bandwidth. I needed a hard pause.
Yeah.
I really needed to just be with my personal life.
Yeah.
And, and also like reminding ourselves of the reason why we're doing what we're doing is to help others, but also along the way, we're facing our own lives and walk our talk as we do that, right? And I felt very much that would be something that I would suggest to a client or like lead the client to consider, right? What would happen if you actually took a break? I know it feels like it was forever. It really wasn't that long, considering, right, the amount of stuff that I went through.
Yeah.
Massive burnout, I went through a lot. It's not the end of the world, right? And we do this, it's our own thing. We make our own rules, but yet the conditioning leads you to think that you should do it, you should keep pushing, you should show up, you should, all the shoulds and woulds and coulds and what ifs. It's gonna fall apart if I don't show up, like no one's gonna come and listen if we are not there every single week, right? And so part of the lesson was also to let go of all of that and surrender to it and accept it, and like, is Rick gonna be mad? Like all of this thinking that went through my head, right? I'm messing things up, like, and realizing, I'm actually being very congruent with what I know I need to do in this moment. Because for as long as I kept pushing, I had no bandwidth to give anything to myself. And in that moment, I really needed to give to myself. And because I didn't, I feel I could have, should have, right? I'm going to do the shoulds.
Mm-hmm.
Paused perhaps a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I would have not gone as deep down into it. But having gone,
you might not have had the lessons that you've got.
Exactly.
Right? Like everything.
It showed me some really serious and important stuff that now I can really speak to, because it was such a reminder of what it used to be like. That used to be my life all the time.
Yeah.
Right? So to be back in it and to be back feeling the ways that I felt, to be back feeling the overwhelm and the burnout and all of that, yeah, it gave me some new understandings, but also gave me the opportunity to respond to that in a different way, which I did,
Totally.
right?
Yeah. And this is one of the things that I, like, we obviously been talking prior to this one episode, but we're touching bases and things like that. But you sent me a text the other day, and about sort of this miracle of a shift that happened. It was like a light switch to you.
Right.
And I think that part, like, that to me gave me huge goosebumps, because it really is that. It's almost like the light goes on and it's like, okay, now I get it. And it's a process.
It's a process, and I think what the conversation you're referencing, I was at the peak of, I literally hit bottom in that moment.
You're either at the peak or you're at the bottom, right?
I was at the peak down below,
Peak
right?
down below, okay.
Peak down below, and at the peak of releasing emotion, right? So it just happened that we were in a meeting, right? We were talking, and in that moment, my psyche, my whole being, my emotional being was just releasing it all, right? And in that moment, as you were talking, I was hearing things, but I couldn't feel any different, right? And it was after the conversation, once that something within that conversation, something within that moment, something within having like completely surrendered to even being super vulnerable with you, which, it's not like I have a hard time with that, but I haven't had a vulnerable moment like that in so long, even the two of us, right? So having surrendered to the process of shedding, because it really very much, that's what it was, it allowed it to just pass through, right? Because the moment that it just all got released and got expressed, it dissipated, right? It just started dissolving. I mean, it was multiple conversations, right?
The clouds started to appear.
Leading up to that conversation with you, like it was really the moment that I raised both my hands and said, you know what? I could use a little coaching, I could use a little different perspective. I could use being super vulnerable and honest about this. Not that I wasn't before, but I just wasn't making the time for it.
Yeah.
Because I can do this. I'm a coach. I can fix this. I have the tools. I know what, but sometimes I is not enough. And that's been very much my lesson throughout the last few months. Sit down and allow someone else to help you. Sit down and learn how to ask for help. Sit down and learn to receive.
Yeah.
We're talking about July. I was so uncomfortable with receiving. So uncomfortable. Whenever someone lent a hand or helped me, even with my kids, I was so uncomfortable with it. There was a lot of guilt, and there was a lot of like feeling like there was a burden on others. And I went through a very big, shift in that sense of like, there's something for you to look at here, because that asking for help is what you need right now. The receiving is what you need.
Yeah.
But what part of you has such a hard time with this? And, like that's a really big, important question, right? That can really take you to different depths of yourself. And once you accept it for what it is, and you have the courage to take a look at it, and have the courage to suffer and feel the pain that may come from it, then that's when you're truly shifting it. Right?
Yeah.
Like when you resist that falling back into default mode, I'm going to do it myself, right? That's my default. I can do it. I'll figure
Tough it out. I could tough it out. Yeah.
I can tough it out. And it was very difficult for me. Like I really had to raise my hand multiple times and ask for things that I would have rather died than ask for help, within those specific things. But why? Right? So when I ask myself, why is that? Is there anything wrong with me asking for help in this specific situation? No. When I pulled myself outside of myself and looked at it that way, there was nothing wrong with that.
No, it was just made up.
It was just made up.
Yeah.
Well, it was just conditioning.
Well,
Yeah.
totally. Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
made up.
Yeah.
Just conditioning and like catching myself in that.
See, that's the key,
Yeah.
right? Is we have humans, and I don't know if anybody, any other animal has that ability, but we have the ability to really observe our thinking.
Yeah.
Right? Like when you're caught up in it, it doesn't seem like you do, but we have this word called realization, and we can realize, oh my goodness, like why am I really refusing that? Why am I not so much the whying, but isn't it interesting that I had that reaction? It's like, oh, I just got triggered. Well, isn't that interesting? I refuse help. Isn't that interesting? Kind of a thing. And then the stories that we built up around it, like you're still here, like you didn't catch on fire because you asked for help. But we think we have these scenarios that part of it is our conversation of what others might think, right? There's a huge one right there, right? I find myself a lot of times noticing that comes up, right? But it's just conditioning. If you realize what it is, it has no more power.
Right. Yeah, it really is about constantly asking yourself, how am I feeling?
Yeah.
What's causing that? Is that really true?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? It's just that we tend to just believe it as truth.
And stop there. There. Yeah.
And when things are really intense, that you're responding to so many different things, like I was, all at the same time. Because let's be honest, those moments happen in life.
Oh,
they have happened to me many times, and it will probably happen again. Right? That's life.
Yeah.
When that happens, it is very challenging. And that's what I was reminded of. It is very challenging in those moments to be able to take that pause and ask those questions and spend the time reflecting on all of this when you're constantly responding to something.
Yeah.
And so really the slowing down and letting go of things that I could let go of was what I needed. And still, that wasn't enough. Because still is, a very intense moment. And at some point I had too many balls that I was juggling all at the same time.
Yeah.
And I had to let go of some. So that I could take this pause and ask those questions. Yeah.
And it's, there's a couple of things that you're pointing to. And the fact is that there are things in our lives that we don't have control over.
Right.
But we tend to focus on them as if we do. And that takes up bandwidth because there are stuff that we do have control over that actually do have real consequences if we don't take the bull by the horn. And you're in a situation where, it is very real. Like it's as real as this coffee cup, right?
It's very real. Yeah.
Yeah, no. And this is the piece that people, I think, get caught up in, this whole spiritual bypass, kind of thing. Oh, just relax, it'll all sort out. Yeah, well, there's an element of truth there, but there's also a reality where action has to take place.
Yeah, well, you have to actually respond to all this stuff.
Yes, yeah, you have to.
It just happens so quick.
Yeah,
that you can't be as holistic and as spiritual about it, right? It's like, no, I actually have to I have to actually, this is important. I like that this has come up. Sometimes fight or flight is really where you need to be.
Absolutely.
Respond to situations like the ones I've gone through, right? The problem is when that is sustained over long, extended period of time, it starts rewiring your brain.
Yeah. Yeah. And
You
it
start
becomes
forming.
draining. Yeah. It
Yeah,
becomes
what
draining.
I realized, actually, this is a huge insight I'm having right now. What I realized was that it was a very much a fight or flight, go, 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 respond, respond, respond type of situation. But because I've been there so many times, that path that was once carved so well is still there. I just have carved another one that's really carved really well. But the moment that I took that path, I kind of fell back into it because it was sustained over time, and it kind of shifted me back a little bit into that. Not fully. I'm not saying it was
No,
fully
no.
where I was 5 years ago, but like I entered a space that I hadn't been in mentally because of that need to just respond to everything that was coming into my life, right? And at some point, letting go of things that felt in that moment, I needed to take that time back.
Yes.
Really were the things that sustain me and keep me healthy, right? Like my meditation practice was all over the place. Like being able to go out in nature, some of it was driven by the fact that I was traveling so much. I was in another country, I had my kids all summer, right? But like, I really realized those little things, having my gym routine every week, like having a place. It's your home, and it's always at home every day, right? So some of it I had no control over. Some of it there was nothing I could do about. There were other things like I could have like put my foot down around a little bit stronger and like kept doing that, and I didn't, right? Like I just got into respond mode, right? React mode, respond, react. And I started kind of dropping some of the things that I know would keep me really, really healthy. They
Well,
all
really grounded. Yeah.
really grounded and really present and give me that space to just even sit and reflect,
Yeah.
right? I genuinely didn't have any time for that for pretty much a month and a half.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that took its toll. That took its toll. So I have a lot of sitting down and pre-planning for next summer. How do I make sure that all these things are there? And plan on that. Make sure that they happen.
So there's one thing that I'd like to highlight before we sort of continue on is this notion that you're pointing towards your conditioned self, and part of our conditioning is to keep us safe. So when what you experienced was threatening, right? And so part of our mechanism, the way it works, is that we have conditioning for a purpose. We have this, the problem we get into is in the moment that part was what was required.
Right.
And right, so yeah, some, like you said, sometimes fight or flight is the appropriate answer for the moment,
I
right?
mean, if you're about to get hit by a truck,
Well, of course you,
you have
yeah.
to be in that state to
No,
be able
no.
to
Let
survive.
me just rest here for a moment and think about this for a second.
Yeah, and
Is
that's
the truck real?
very much, those moments are very much real in life.
Absolutely.
Like what went down with me now when my husband was sick and dying, right?
All those things.
Those are fight or flight moments. Whether we like
Absolutely.
it or not, we want to be a guru on the top of a mountain.
No.
That is not a guru moment on the top of the mountain. I mean, part of it, but like there's also part of you gotta be you gotta be quick and you gotta respond and react.
Of course you do. The thing that keeps us in the rabbit hole piece, right, is that because it's a moment by moment world, right, is that what was appropriate then may not be appropriate 10 minutes tomorrow, that kind of a thing. But we tend to catch ourselves in our conditioning, thinking that well, I'll just keep there. I'll just keep there. And part of getting to know you, and we were just briefly talking about that earlier, is before the show started, is noticing that when you are caught in that conditioning piece, and then realizing, oh, wait a minute, why is this not working anymore? Like it worked then, but it's not working now. And like any computer, I think the first thing that happens for me is when the bandwidth isn't quite there, I reboot. Right?
Yeah,
I
that's
restart the computer.
beautiful
I
analogy.
gotta
Yeah,
clear the addict. I gotta clear
yeah,
the cache, right?
yeah.
Um, and then and then and then open up and respond accordingly. It may be some more conditioning that comes up that needs to be there, but that's okay because that's how we work. That's how we work. It's just not to get caught up too much into it and go by moment. Okay, is this important now? Is the threat gone? If the threat's gone, then why am I still
Right. So, so the other thing that comes to mind to me is what you're saying makes very much sense and
Mhm.
easier said than done, right? So, where I feel like I could have done better is asking for, like, getting coached more,
Sure.
right? I mean, I asked for help and I had a lot of conversations, but like making sure that those conversations were regularly had.
Yeah.
And I did some of it, but perhaps I needed more of it, right? Because it's the getting caught up into our own thinking, the problem. And
Yeah.
sometimes it's a lot, I came out of it.
Oh,
Ultimately,
well, yeah.
but
But you've got a lesson, right?
I've got a lesson.
Right.
And I could have probably seen this a little bit faster had I had that kind of support, which is where coaching comes in so strongly, right? And it came in so strongly for me because it was like coaching with you and like another person
Hmm.
within that same week that just allowed me to flip that switch in
Yeah.
that moment.
Yeah.
And it was also a lot of the work. Okay, let me just step back for a second. So that was the end of it. But like once I had an opportunity to have some space for myself, because part of the problem was I didn't have any space for
Yeah.
myself, right? The moment that I had that space for myself and I had that moment to reflect, I knew exactly what I needed to do. And the moment I started doing all those things that I know that are healthy for me and just accepting the sadness, accepting that I'm in the rabbit hole, accepting where I was at, and still forcing myself to go to the gym, still forcing myself to meditate, still forcing myself to go into the woods. In a moment where I didn't feel like doing any of those things,
Hmm.
that was what started opening up
Yeah.
my mind towards starting to see things a little differently, right? And then being open to saying, you know what, can we just talk? I think I may need to be coached right now, right? Or like, I'm ready to reconnect with the world because I disconnected, not just from work, but I disconnected from everything in my
Yeah.
life, everyone, right? And so I realized once I took that pause, I need to start reconnecting the people that I love, the people that make me feel good, with the people that I love. I need to start reconnecting with things that I love, with my passion, with coaching, with, like, because the more I disconnected from things, the further away I felt from all of it.
Yeah.
And it was healthy at some point, but at some point I went too far, right? At some point it was like, oh, now I can't even see it anymore. I'm so far, it's like a little dot, in the horizon. And as soon as I got closer to it, things got so much clearer again, right?
Yeah.
As soon as I did the things that I know I need to do as a coach, it started working again. Things started shifting, right? My thinking changed, my reality started changing.
Yep.
Yes, things are not resolved yet, but the way I'm navigating this and the way I feel in this and the fact that I am showing up again, that's a very different place to be. And being,
You're more empowered. You're more empowered
yeah,
now. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I this has been again wonderful conversation.
Yeah.
But the key word you just said about a couple of minutes ago is reconnecting.
Reconnecting. Yeah.
And I want to remind our listeners and viewers that we're back here to reconnect.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so thank you for this opportunity. And I'm speaking to the audience and to you, obviously, but no, a chance to have reconnecting. We've got a ton of material. We're going to still have guests. We'll have guests pop up occasionally. We'll be doing some live shows and some recorded shows as life kind of dictates a few things. But it's been such a wonderful time with you again. And it's good to reconnect, isn't it?
It is. It's good to be in this space, and it's good to speak from my truth.
Yes.
That's another thing I really reconnected with over and over again, actually. And it was really reconnecting to the ultimate truth
within all of us.
Who I am.
Who you are, yeah.
In who I am, and standing in that truth, no matter what anyone thought, and standing within the truth of my experiences, that I was able to reconnect to myself, and therefore start reconnecting to the world outside of me. And I realized that I was reconnecting to myself deep down, but to a part of myself that I hadn't fully seen as clearly as I do now. And for me to be able to see that part of myself this clearly, what I went through was necessary.
Absolutely.
It's not fun.
No, it's never fun. I mean, obviously after the fact, there's a phrase that somebody says about, looking back, you've always came through your worst case. Like here you are today, kind of a deal, right? So anyways, let's
We'll talk a lot more in detail about all of this stuff. This is just an overview. We didn't disappear just because we got bored with this.
No.
Life, guys.
We're back.
Yeah, things happen, and sometimes you do need that break. Healthy breaks are good. Healthy breaks are good even in self-development.
There's a whole show right there.
Yeah, exactly. Right there. It's in that stillness of the break that the growth sometimes really happens.
That's where it all, absolutely.
Yeah. And we don't give ourselves enough breaks to be able to grow in a healthy way.
All right, let's take a break. We'll be back very shortly.
Next week.
Next week, yes. All right. So thank you, Fatí. Been a pleasure.
It's been a pleasure. Follow us, subscribe, share the episode if you found it helpful, and let us know if there's anything specific you want us to talk about. We haven't talked to you in a while, so
Drop us a
please
line.
let us know if anything resonates. You have any questions, you know where to find us. Until next week.
Cheers.
All right.